Chapter 2, Beast from the Beyond. "Did you catch that, Thade?" Rescuca asks, facing the wall he and his comrade share. A low, grumbling voice responds, "I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but I heard you speak of something called secret things. I don't recall your ever telling me about these secret things." Trying to hide his annoyance, Rescuca replies, "Yes, the secret things, knowledge, power, droits, and abilities that come from the beyond. That's the place you come from. It's from there that I summoned you, but none of that's important right now." "Not important?" Thade asks, surprised and offended. His reaction seems to suck the energy out of the cells near him. For a moment, even the low hum of the bars is consumed by utter silence, as though Thade himself is an inescapable black hole. The moment passes quickly, and Thade gruffly continues, "I gave you my loyalty and ended up in this prison with you. I'm about to be incinerated in a number of hours, and you're telling me what's not important? I think I have a right to know what you've been holding out on. I've laid it all out on the line for you. It's time you do the same." Knowing his comrade indeed has remained loyal to the cause, Rescuca replies empathetically, "I know things are looking pretty gloomy, and it seems like they can't get any worse, but I'm not about to share more information and risk the liability. It's been made evident that Emperor Ipaga has spies everywhere. I'm sure this prison is no exception. Look at what I shared with my trusted friend Leecham and how that turned out." Thade peers suspiciously through the electromagnetic bars. In a hushed voice, he says, "Perhaps you're right. Maybe there's some wisdom in that. Perhaps there's still some hope for us. It's just that I'm still trying to figure out how things turned out the way they did. Someone has been right this whole time, and someone has been wrong. And somehow I've allowed myself to get caught up in the middle. We had so much power before all this. You tell me how you once controlled light in the IT, and how I controlled life. Light and life. That's such great power, so much control. Now, we both sit here, about to be extinguished. I'm still so young, and I've spent most of my existence in exile on this planet. This can't be the end for me. And why is everything so fuzzy here? Why is it so dark?" "All right. First of all, my young friend, not everything is about power and control. When you talk like that, you sound like the very ones we oppose. Second, you never had the power to create life. The Emperor had that and was sure to share his power with no one. He merely authorized you to take life. That's the reason he summoned you from the beyond. He intended to use you as part of his grand scheme to infect and eliminate all Legna who stood between him and absolute rule. You're having a hard time remembering things because of the control probe he placed inside you. With my knowledge of the secret things, which I gained from my time I spent around the wisdom pillar, I helped you remove the probe, and you've been by my side ever since. Look, whether you realize it or not, the Emperor always planned to eliminate you. It was only a matter of time. I merely opened your eyes to this beforehand and showed you a better way and greater purpose." Rescuca pauses and lowers his voice before continuing. "You and the 200 helped me rally the troops in our homeland and fight against all those Legna in the city of Noise, those who chose to remain loyal to the Emperor Ipaga and his evil ways. Little did we know that our fight in Noise was just the beginning. After losing the initial battle, we were exiled here to this remote system where we thought we'd be safe to recover and lick our wounds. We were supposed to simply wait out the days of deliberation, which would give us plenty of time to strategize. Instead, the Emperor chose to meddle in our affairs here in order to personally see to our demise. In addition to sending his henchmen, he raised up those Numah creatures against us." Rescuca trails off a bit as he recalls those memories. He grasps the glowing bars to his cell, which makes a crackling sound that he ignores. Angrily, through gritted teeth, he says, Self-absorbed and power-hungry, Ipaga couldn't resist. He had to eliminate all threats, and we were a big one. And so, way ahead of schedule, he initiated the Numah fusion. Foreseeing this, we tried to win over as many Numah as possible to our cause. We enlightened them and taught them everything we knew they could handle. They're a primitive species, and therefore communicating with them was tough, so we got creative. In fact, the 200 got too creative. They stepped way over the line, blew our cover, and probably cost us the war. Easing his grip on the bars, he continues, "Anyway, have pride, Thade. We were outnumbered 2-1 against Leecham and the Legna Legion, the army whose command the Emperor so cunningly stole from me. Being exiled here on Thray, we were basically in the Emperor's backyard, behind enemy lines. Emperor Ipaga knew exactly what he was doing when he placed us here. I simply underestimated his craftiness, and also his courage, for that matter. He never struck me as the courageous type. The only traits I ever observed in him were pride and vanity. He seemed to merely be self-seeking, conceited, and eager to one day dominate the entire IT. Before the ages, the time of the 100 worlds, I learned of his plan to construct and activate the Numah, but had no idea he would volunteer to be the program's test subject. And yes, I must admit it was a bit embarrassing to learn that our own troops activated and engaged the fusion system by tampering with Roivus, the Emperor's personal Numah. I had no idea it was here on Thray that the fusion system would be initiated. Why would the Emperor initiate his power program here on a prison planet? This was, no doubt, an ingenious plot devised by the Emperor himself. He devised a brilliant scheme to justify the immediate need for fusion power. Again, it's always been about power with him. Once more, I have very few regrets, if any. The same should be true for you. Taking out Roivus seems to be our clan's only hope in stopping Ipaga's evil initiative. We put up a good fight, and the only thing we can hope for now is that the rest of the Legna follow our lead. It's hard for me to even utter the word Legna, but perhaps in our valiant resistance our former brethren will come to their senses and wake up to the Emperor's plot. Just as in the case of the thousands of Legna we rallied in the realm, perhaps we've been a source of inspiration, even if we do die here in this prison." Confused, and not reassured in the least, Thade responds, "Speak for yourself. You may not have any regrets, but I'm not so sure myself. When I think about it now, I've never had a mind of my own. All I've ever been is a puppet. I was either taking orders from the Emperor or taking orders from you. I've been in prison so long, I don't have much memory of our time in the realm, only small glimpses. I do still remember your convincing me that we needed to take action against our fellow Legna here on Thray. I also remember taking out countless Numah. Whether that was for you or the Emperor, I can't recall. I'm so confused. I don't even remember how I got to this system, let alone this planet." In an attempt to help his comrade remember, Rescuca says, "Well, to address your confusion, you've taken out countless Numah, both for me and the Emperor. Yes, Evol Ipaga cares only about himself. Despite what many claim, he has no care or concern for the simple Numah creatures whatsoever. They're a means to his end, just as you were. Yes, you, the Legna, and the Council all mean nothing to him. Our Nomad clan always has posed the greatest threat to his absolute reign, so he certainly wants to see us gone." If you don't remember, Rescuca continues, along with thousands of Legna, I rescued you from the Emperor's tyrannical plot to dominate the entire IT. He sought to have all creatures groveling at his feet and attempted to reduce Legna to mere caretakers for his pets. We were all created for so much more than that. But if we were cut off from the Freedom Zone and deprived of knowledge from the Wisdom Sector, there never would be a hope for anything more. Evol knew this all along. Unfortunately, Thade, it took me a while to free you from the Emperor's grip. It took me a while to discern which frequency and art of the secret things he was using to continue to manipulate you here on Thray. Your lack of memory is perfectly normal. It's due to your extended time spent on this planet. For eons and ages, I've roamed the worlds and merely built up a tolerance to multiple atmospheres and almost all frequencies. Making things worse for you, though, is the fact that the Emperor has moved in and out of your mind. That kind of abuse takes an even greater toll on one's memory. I know this from all the Numah our clan has tried to control and use in our resistance against the Emperor. The more and more transmissions that are made to a mind, the more of a mess the mind becomes. You're far more powerful than the Numah creatures, but the transmitter within Ipaga's beacon is far more powerful than the makeshift transmitters we've used here on Thray. He peers out through the bars into the dim hall, looking in both directions. If he didn't know any better, he'd think he and Thade are alone. Not another sound, aside from the constant humming of the bars, can be heard. Rescuca knows others are sharing their row, but most of the other inmates arrived before them, and for some reason have passed into silence. "I'll tell you what," Rescuca says. "I've maintained a chronicle since the time my enlightenment began in the realm. Before, I wasn't sure if my record would ever serve a purpose, and I thought it pretty pointless. I now feel that everyone should keep a chronicle. As soon as we ended up in this prison, the purpose of my chronicle became very clear. The Emperor has his spies in this prison, but I also have my own. I've made arrangements for my chronicle to be picked up and delivered to the nearest operating sub-beacon. It then will be transmitted on a low-volume, discrete channel throughout the entire IT, in hopes that someone will hear the message and come to our aid. Hopefully, this will happen before it's too late for you and me. With as bad as things have gotten with Ipaga, moving forward so quickly with his fusion program, there must be others who have seen the light by now and also set themselves free from the Emperor's grip. In encryption form, I've highlighted the main portions that will be transmitted, and that should give the other Legna a clear picture of the increasing danger we all face. In the meantime, it'll be my pleasure to give my chronicle yet another purpose: inspiration for my devout companion. I can read most of it to you from the beginning until our mutual friend arrives. Hopefully, this will help some things come back for you and also give you some strength. Stories help us thrive. Hang in there, Thade. All we have is each other. Everything else has been taken from us." Thade responds with a dejected look on his face. "Yes, you're right. We have lost everything." Rescuca then settled his large frame on the floor of his cell. In an attempt to make himself more comfortable, he leans against the wall he and Thade share. Taking a wearisome breath, he begins. "Let me explain. This has been Rescuca, Savior of the Realm, written by D.L. Dunnaville, narrated by Kevin Tice. Copyright 2015 by D.L. Dunnaville. Production copyright 2016 by D.L. Dunnaville.